Who was the original Braveheart and how Tuatha Dea is reclaiming that title from William Wallace. Plus, we'll sing a tribute to Robert the Bruce with one of Robert Burns' most famous songs. It's Pub Songs and Stories, show number 235. Welcome to Pub Songs and Stories. This is the virtual public house for musicians to share the stories and inspiration behind their music with your host, Mark Gunn. Subscribe to the podcast at pubsong.com. Welcome to Pub Songs and Stories. I am Mark Gunn, and I'm going to start with a song by the national poet of Scotland, Robert Burns. Scots, you may remember from the movie Braveheart. At the end of the movie, Robert the Burns stands on the battlefield and says, "You bled with Wallace, now bleed with me." Well, Robert Burns took that idea and wrote this gorgeous song, and it is one of Scotland's most powerful nationalistic songs. This is Scots. I recorded it on my CD, Scottish Songs of Drinking and Rebellion, but let me sing it to you right now. Scots with Wallace bled, Scots when Bruce has often led. Welcome to your gory bed, or to victory. Now's the day and now's the hour. See the front of battle lower. See approach proud Edward's power. Chains and slavery. Law will be a traitor knave. Law can fill a coward's grave. Law say base as be a slave. Let him turn and flee. Law for Scotland's king and law. Freedom's sword will strongly draw. Free men stand or free men fall. Let them follow me. By oppressions, woes and pains, by your sons in servile chains, we will drain our dearest veins, but we shall be free. Lay the proud usurpers low, tyrants fall in every foe. Liberties in every blow, let us do or die. Scots where Wallace bled, Scots when Bruce has often led. Welcome to your gory bed, or to victory. Today's show is brought to you by my Gunn Runners on Patreon, and I want to send out a special thanks to Jenn Evans, who is our newest Patreon, and there's a whole bunch of new content on the Patreon page. I release a lot of cool stuff. Right now I'm talking about 22 minutes per side of a vinyl album. I share an MP3 of Wild Mountain Thyme, a travel video from Georgia, and I also have a poll asking how long this podcast should be. So the whole year, I've been super pleased with the Pub Songs and Stories. It's turning into a fun, engaging show. The one problem I have is that right now, I can only seem to put out like one episode per month, even with the kids back in school. They both just got sick again this past week. Now, I don't mind putting out only one a month, but it would be wonderful if I could put the show out more frequently, once a week, but there's that whole time issue. And there's also the mind issue, organizing my thoughts and whatnot. It's always difficult for me. So I was talking with my editor, Mitchell, and he suggested like shorter episodes, like one story per episode. And mentally, when I started thinking about it, I realized that kind of really works for me. One of the drawbacks of the 30 to 40 minute episodes is compiling all the stories, putting it together, coming up with the stories, the information and stuff that I put in between. But if I keep it short, that could work. And it certainly worked early on when I started the podcast. When I first started the podcast, all my episodes were, 10 to 15 minutes. I would sing a song, chat a little bit, sing another song or something. It was very much the similar sort of podcast format, and it worked for me. And I really think that might work well in this new format as well, having the stories, sing a song, chat about what's new, and then share a story. And of course, I don't even have to talk about what's new. All I have to do is share the story in the song. That's the basics of this new format if it goes through. I'm going to try it out through September and see how it works mentally and whatnot. And I would love your thoughts. I might actually go through October to work out the kinks a little bit. But I would love your thoughts about it. You can email me, mark@markgunn.com. You can also let me know in the Celtic Geeks group on Facebook. Last, I want to let you know that I have a show this Thursday at Lost Druid Brewery in Avondale Estates, Georgia. This is my DragonCon warm-up show, so come join me. All right, Tuatha Dea emailed me about the story of Braveheart, and it's not the Braveheart you think of if you saw the movie. It's a Scottish knight named Black Douglas, but I'll let the band tell you the story.
Hey, everybody. My name is Danny Mullican.
And I'm Rebecca Mullican.
And we are a husband and wife team that is part of a much larger group from the Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee called Tuatha Dea. And we take the name from Celtic mythology, Irish mythology, in fact. And while we have very strong connections to our Irish history,
we also have a lot of connection to our Scottish history as well.
So between the two, we have generated a band that automatically fell into the category of Celtic. And somewhere along the line, we picked up the description of Appalachian Celtic rock. And we've recently been working on an album, and on that album there is a single that we have put out so far. A single that, when we wrote it, we thought we should live up to our label of Appalachian Celtic rock, and it has two names.
Bravehearts, but also the Black Douglas.
And there's a reason for that. The term Bravehearts, while we've seen, I think most people know, it was applied to the movie that came out about William Wallace, an amazing historical Scottish figure, actually didn't belong to William Wallace. It was a label that was attached to
Sir James Douglas and Robert the Bruce.
So we wanted to give that term back in song to the proper recipients. And also, since we were going to be singing about Sir James Douglas, we picked up on the moniker that was bestowed upon him by the English, who were scared to death of him, and they called him
the Black Douglas.
So there's our two titles to this particular song. A little bit about Sir James Douglas. He was the right-hand man of Robert the Bruce, and he met with the Bruce on his way to his coronation, and the Bruce basically promised him that he could have his name back, which had been taken by the English from him, and all that Douglas wanted to do was serve. So that basically happened, and he became the most feared knight in Scottish history. There's a whole lot of information out there about the Black Douglas, or as the Scots called him, Good Sir James, and all of that can be looked up. He was in a number of battles. He was only in his 40s when he died, and somehow or another,
he has an epic story, and we wanted to honor him and give him basically his name back in this particular era,
since he was kind of glossed over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I think one of the most amazing things about him is the way that he did die, because when Robert the Bruce lay on his deathbed, the story goes that he called Sir James to his bedside and said, "I've never been on a crusade." Of course, I'm paraphrasing him. And I've never been on a crusade. And when I die, I would like my heart cut from my body and embalmed, put in a necklace, and carried into battle. And that's exactly what James Douglas did. And somewhere along the way, he found himself in foreign lands, completely surrounded by the enemy, cut off from his troops, and knowing he was about to die, the story goes he took the necklace from about his neck with Robert the Bruce's heart in it, threw it into the foray of the enemy, ran in, basically saying, "Sire, where you go, also do I." And this is how he died, which is pretty amazing and pretty epic. So that's what this song is about. It's about this guy who helped put Robert the Bruce on the throne and
stuck by his side even into his end
and beyond. There's a lot you can learn about him by looking up Sir James Douglas or the Black Douglas, the most feared knight in Scottish history. They say that the English mothers used to keep their children in check by telling stories of the boogeyman at night, that the Black Douglas would get you. There's even an epic poem. It's "Hushy, hushy, little pet ye, hushy, hushy, do not fret ye. The Black Douglas shall not get you." And so, if I remember what I read correctly too, he's the only knight ever in the history of Scotland to put the Queen on her heels.
Twice.
2 separate occasions. Got so close. So we gave the song back to him. Well, we wrote the song for him, giving back the phrase "Bravehearts." And in the song itself, there's a place for people to engage and get involved, and some audience participation. We play it live, and the term "Bravehearts" is yelled over and over. But that's, I guess,
it's like a chant.
Yeah,
it's like a homage, I guess.
So I guess that's our story today about why we wrote the song "The Black Douglas." We wanted to give the term back, Bravehearts, back to Sir James Douglas. We wanted to celebrate him, and so there's our reasoning behind all that. And once again, I'm Danny.
And I'm Rebecca.
From Tuatha Dea. And that's our story of the Black Douglas.
Or Bravehearts.
Up to you. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed that story and song. If you did, you can check him out at tuathadea.com. You'll find him all over socials as well. I know they're playing at the Mid-Tennessee Highland Games that is coming up in September that the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast is sponsoring. So go check that out. And of course, I want to remind you to support what you love. If the show made you happy, you can also join the Gunn Runners Club on Patreon. Your support pays for the production and promotion of my music and this podcast. If you have questions or comments, drop me an email, mark@markgunn.com. I will be back again next week with a story about a jug of whiskey and a lesson about cleaning said jug. Stay subscribed. Talk to you soon. Sláinte. Pub Songs Podcast is produced by Mark Gunn. The show is edited by Mitchell Peterson with graphics by Miranda Nelson Designs. You can subscribe and listen wherever you find podcasts. You can also subscribe to my mailing list. You will get regular updates of new music, podcasts, special offers, and you'll get 21 songs for free. Welcome to the pub at pubsong.com.